The Ministry of Civil Aviation has released the second provisional list of the beneficiaries under the PLI scheme for drone as well as for drone components. So to talk at length on this issue, joining with me is Mr. Amba Dubey, Joint Secretary Civil Aviation Ministry. Sir, would like to understand that so far what is the number, how many players they have been shortlisted under the drone as well as how many are been listed under this drone component category?
See, the PLI scheme for drones was notified on 30th of September last year. And accordingly, we had certain eligibility criteria based on turnover and value addition. And in May, we had invited applications from all the drone manufacturers. And based on a scrutiny of their unaudited numbers, which they have sent for the financial year 21-22, we have now done the scrutiny and have come up with the second provisional list, which comprises 23 PLI beneficiaries, of which there are 12 drone companies and 11 manufacturers of drone components.
Okay. So, in a larger picture, so this is the second list. So, if we take the first as well as the second list, how many numbers are there, the total beneficiaries which have been, under this PLI scheme shortlisted?
No, so this second provisional list includes most of the players who were shortlisted in the first list. I'll just explain the difference between the two. What happened was the first provisional list was taken out based on the applications received in March. At that time, people had the GST returns only for 10-month period, okay, till January. But many players had already crossed it. So for our own assessment and projections, and to also alert the Finance Ministry about the fund requirements, we thought that at least we'll come up with the first list of people who have already crossed the turnover and value addition threshold in 10 months itself. Okay. That was the purpose. So those 14 companies, most of those 14 companies are now in the final list of 23 companies also.
Okay. So far, what is the ground reality in the sense that what is the result that you have achieved so far, and going forward, what do you think so that it will shape up in coming years?
No, the results are far better than what we had projected when we had projected these numbers very close to August and September. If you remember, August last year we had come up with the drone rules, and within 3 weeks the cabinet had approved this PLI scheme. So all those projections were based on lots of discussions that we had with the industry and academia, etc. And we are very happy to report that numbers have been proved wrong, and this is a rare case. We are feeling happy and proud that our numbers have been proved wrong for all the right reasons. The reason is the turnover which of these companies, which was just about 88 crores in 2021, has now risen to 319 crores. It's an increase of almost 250%. I repeat, 250% increase in just one financial year. And whereas the drone rules had been liberalized just in August, which gives you only about 7 months of the year, but we are seeing unprecedented increase in the turnover and the value addition. Very importantly, our threshold, our cutoff, eligibility cutoff was actually 40%. And if you look at the average of these 23 companies, it comes out to 66%. So of this 319 number, 319 crores of turnover, 66% of this turnover is actually value addition inside India, which is far more than what we had imagined.
What more steps can we expect from the government, from the Civil Aviation Ministry when it comes about the entire drone revolution, especially in the context that recently we have seen one of the largest event, the Drone Mahotsav, where Prime Minister was flying a drone as well, and you were also present over there. So what sort of feedback you have got from the industry, and what more positive steps the ministry is as of now planning so?
See, a bulk of our work is related to policies, so that has happened. The next step is the giving of incentives, which again the scheme is now notified, and now we're just going through the motions, and we will hand over the incentives, because that's now a government scheme which is already in the Gazette of India. So that is done. In terms of demand creation, we are working with almost 15 ministries and encouraging them to come up with more and more RFPs and job work orders, so that more and more money can be passed on to the drone companies, and there could be several benefits that come with drones that can accrue to these ministries. Similarly, private sector is now getting into this in a big way, and they are also using in their own big refineries and steel plants and transmission lines and mobile networks. Everything is using drones now. On the agriculture side, in surveys, in the Swamitwa scheme, I can go on and on. There is a massive use because of the huge encouragement that we are receiving from none other than the Prime Minister himself and other senior ministers in the cabinet. So that part is now done. Now on the type certification, we've already got 2 companies which have received the type certification. And the benefit of a type certification is that once you get a type certificate, you can make innumerable number of drones of that same type, and you can just come to our Digital Sky platform, which is a single window system for registration, and you can self-generate the registration number of the drones. Okay, so 2 companies have already got their type certification. We are working with at least some 11 other companies, and we hope most of them, because we don't want to compromise on quality standards, but we hope that most of them will convert into a type certificate. Once they get the type certificate, we'll see a huge boom in the number of these type certified legal drones. Okay, that's on the type certification front. On the drone training. Now, drone training is very important because right now a lot of people have, basic skills based on what you learn from your friends or other people. But right now the number of drone schools has now gradually gone up from 14 to 23. And these 23 schools we want to maybe double to 46 or even 50 at the earliest. Okay, so that all over the country we have drone schools, and more drone pilots can be released into the system. If you remember, during the Bharat Drone Mahotsav, the Honorable Prime Minister had released 150 drone pilot certificates, and you'll be happy to note that in barely, I think just about 6 weeks since then, the number has more than doubled to almost 380 drone pilots, which are certified drone pilots. This 380 again is not a great number. We want it to now go quickly to 1,000 and then 10,000 and 1 lakh very soon. So these are some of the priorities that we are focusing on.
So the entire ecosystem is quite developing. But do you think so that it is still a challenge, because major development, major push is there in the PSU segment. The penetration is not reaching to the other sectors or even to the other important areas, especially in the when you say like it's a whole market and a retail market. So that difference is actually present as of now, and that is actually maybe a big challenge to the entire drone development.
You're right. So, but it's happening a lot. It's just that it's not happening in the big cities, because by default, bulk of the use cases are in the agricultural field, and there'll be thousands and thousands of drones which will now operate, and they are away from the city, so we don't get to see them. The other one is this massive Swamitwa program where 6.6 lakh villages are there in this country, and under this Prime Minister's scheme, every property in every village, each of those 6.6 lakh villages is going to be mapped over the next 2 to 3 years, and that work is already happening in dozens and dozens of locations across the country. That thing is happening. So I won't fully agree that because ultimately the drones are being manufactured, they're being used somewhere. These are costly equipment. Okay, and a costly equipment will not be manufactured unless there's a buyer. So that is happening, and then a lot of private sector companies are using it for their own surveillance purpose, survey purposes, for any construction of any roads, highways, bridges. A lot of that is being constructed by the private sector. Okay, for large refineries, large mining plants, they're all using drones for safety, security, surveillance, and transportation, of course, is one area which is going to be evolving in the future. There, a lot of experiments are happening with high-capacity drones, which can lift almost as high as 100, 200, or even 500 kilograms. That work will happen mostly with the military first, then in areas which are a little outside the city, and then they'll come into the city. So this is the typical sequence which happens: military first, and then on the outskirts, and then into the middle of the city.
Okay. My last question would be that this entire PLI scheme is of 120 crore of budgetary outlay. Will it be further expanded? Are you there in talks with the Finance Ministry? And if yes, so what sort of response the Aviation Ministry is getting?
Yes, some conversation has happened at the informal level, and I'll be happy to report that even the Finance Ministry is happy to see that we had budgeted only 16 crores for this year, and the number that has worked out because of the high turnover, far more than what we thought, and higher value addition. So it's a double whammy. and the PLI numbers which we have to give out is 42 crores. So 16 crores we had budgeted based on feedback from the industry itself, but this was in the early days when the drone rules had just come out, so we couldn't foresee the speed at which this sector will grow. So instead of 16 crores, now we have to write, we have already written to the Finance Ministry to release 42 crores. And going by this massive surge, we are happy because more drones means more GST revenue for the government as well, and more job creation, where again we get taxes from every salaried employee like you. So I think overall things are very positive, and I'm sure we will work on the projections for the subsequent 2 years. Right now, our focus is just to get the funds and then give it out to these youngsters who have struggled a lot, and they are looking forward to this cash infusion from the government. And after that, we will apply for higher numbers, and I'm sure, I'm very confident that we'll get the additional funding.
Many thanks for talking to us. With camera person Junaid, this is Samir Dixit for 80 Now.